And it surprised me when I was studying the book of Hebrews that in all the years I've been preaching that this verse was never brought forth as an Easter verse. But as you listen to it, you will see it very much represents the whole concept of Easter and Christ's life after that. Reading from chapter 9, verses 23 to 28. Thus it was necessary for the copies, that's priests like myself and ministers, of the heavenly things to be purified with these rites, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifice than these. For Christ has entered not into the sanctuary made by hands, a copy of a true one, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God on our behalf. Nor was it to offer himself repeatedly, as the high priest enters the holy place year after year with blood not of his own. For then he would have had to suffer repeatedly since the foundation of the world. But as it is, he has appeared once for all at the end of the ages to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. And just as it is appointed for men and women to die once, and after that comes judgment, so Christ, having been offered once to bear the sins of many, will appear in a second time, not to deal with sin, but to save those who are eagerly waiting for him. May God bless to us some understanding of this reading today. Well, as I've shared with you many times before, I like to meditate. And when I meditate, I get into my comfortable chair and I do my little yogi sit down, except I can't do the proper thing. And I try to relax and pray. And not too long ago, I'm talking within a couple of weeks, I sat down to pray, and for whatever reason, this day I started my prayer by saying, Lord, I give you thanks. And before I can even get any other words out of their mouth, it was like a voice said to me, do you really appreciate what you're about to say? For you see, when we give thanks, we're saying, I appreciate. When someone comes to our house and they bring pie well, thank you for bringing the, we appreciate the pie. Well, thanks for having me over for supper. I appreciate that you invited me over for supper. So do we really appreciate? As I began to think, I appreciate my meal, but do I appreciate the fact that I have a full meal day after day when I've never experienced anything like having to have nothing but a handful of rice here and there? Do I really appreciate? Can I truly appreciate a home on February when it's blowing cold and snowing and I walk in and it's 71 degrees, there's no wind? Can I appreciate my home when I'm sitting under a lamp reading a really cool mystery or novel when the wind is blowing and pouring? When I've never truly experienced what it must be like to live in nothing but a tin house, a shack in cardboard. And I tried not to overdo it, but do you remember the images of Haiti last year when they had the rain season and the yards really became the latrine as the water washed everything through their houses? Can we really appreciate our home? And what about our schools? You know, here's a school. Brad, can you tilt the lights in the back? I just realized that this isn't helping here either. Can we really appreciate, that's better, our schools? We have technology like I have here, a PowerPoint, giving things and pictures and microphones, and teachers for every 20, 30 people. when we've never, and I know some of you here have probably come from an age of one school or two schoolroom, but nothing like this, where you didn't have books and the desks were so dirty and wooden. And I also chose a picture of a fairly progressive place, because as I searched African pictures, you see many have nothing but the shade of a tree, and if it's raining, they don't get to go to school. And what about getting to school? Do you young people, can you appreciate the fact that you never have to walk too far, and the bus will bring you right to the door? And do we appreciate the education? This young boy here has to walk for several hours if he wants an education. He has to want it so bad that he'll get up at 5 in the morning and walk 2 or 3 hours to school and then walk back home. Isn't it great? Our cars today, I mean, I can't even appreciate compared to the old cars that by the time they warmed up, I was already where I wanted to get. So I was colder in the car than I was outside, but now my car is warm in 5 minutes. And again, protected from the rain and the elements. Do we really appreciate it when we turn that key and hear the engine start? That we're not using things like oxen and other creatures. This is the one that I think bothers me the most. When I hear how much we complain about our health system, yes, sometimes we have to sit for 4, 5, 8 hours in an emerge. 8 hours in a warm, clean setting where doctors are observing to a degree, and where when we do have to have surgery, when we have to have any other medical things, look at the technology that we have. In Africa, sometimes they'll walk for 2 or 3 days. They'll stand in line for 8 or 9 hours, and the doctor's done work, closes shop, and is not back for 2 or 3 days. Do we really appreciate our health care? Finally, or not finally, but I wonder if we appreciate the sacrifice. Many men and women in this world sacrifice their life, they risk their life, and they die horrible deaths. But most of what they do, they're compensated for. And when they go, they know it's a risk. But this man didn't go to the cross as a risk. He knew beforehand that he'd be arrested. He knew he would suffer terrible physical agony. But more important, he knew ahead of time his friends would abandon him. He would suffer loneliness, emptiness, disgrace, all kinds of stuff. But he voluntarily went so that we would survive life forever. So now I wonder, can we appreciate the resurrection? I wonder how many people appreciate resurrection when they go and they start getting ready in the morning with all their makeup, and they got to be just right or they don't dare leave the house, and they have to spend thousands of dollars on hairdos. And of course, we don't go out with a head like this. We got to keep it covered. It's embarrassing to be bald. We'll spend thousands of dollars worrying about our vanity. I think of vanity as like a pair of sunglasses. You know, when it's really bright and sunny out, we want thick, thick glasses, sunglasses, to prevent the sun from hurting our eyes. Well, the more vanity we have, the more we're worried about what other people think of us. That's like a block, our own barrier between us and God Almighty. God's Son is there and God's open arms are ready for us. But we prevent God from coming to us when we don't appreciate just who we are as we are. I know so many people in life struggling in their career. They're never happy being where they are. They want to be the foreman. If they're the foreman, they want to be the superintendent. If they're the superintendent, they want to be the president. And they're never satisfied accepting who they are. And they live life in this big worry of what life really has to offer them and what other people are thinking of them and what's going to happen. And all these worries give them such a heartache that it separates them from the absolute purity of love that they could be experiencing every day and every minute of their life if they weren't worried. The final worry that I I think of in the resurrection is how many people worry about death itself. We're worried about being sick. We're worried about what it's going to be like if we're bedridden. We're worried about what it's like